I spent the next years of my life worthlessly traveling the world, drinking beer and playing rugby. I played in London, I played in Kiwi Land, New Zealand, Australia, Canada. So my whole message is there is something inside every one of us that passion fires off. And when you find that, that's when your spirit comes alive.
Whether you're looking for inspiration, guidance, or simply a moment of reflection, you're in the right place. This is Wisdom Stripes. Before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to take a moment to share something important. The views expressed by my guests are their own, and they may not necessarily reflect mine or those of this platform. My intention with every episode is to create a space where we can explore diverse perspectives, life experiences, and belief systems together. I truly believe that wisdom lives everywhere, and often we find it in the places we least expect, especially in those whose experiences and beliefs are very different from our own. Not every episode will challenge you, but some might, and that's okay. Growth often comes when we allow ourselves to step into discomfort and see the world through someone else's eyes. I also want to share something I heard recently from Oprah Winfrey that really struck a chord with me. She said at a commencement speech, "People all want to know one thing. Was that okay? Did you hear me? Do you see me? Did what I say mean anything to you?" My hope is that you will try to go out and have more face-to-face conversations with people you may disagree with, that you'll have the courage to look others in the eye and hear their point of view, and help make sure that the speed and distance and anonymity of our world doesn't cause us to lose our ability to stand in somebody else's shoes and recognize all that we share as a people. There has to be some way that this darkness can be banished with light. I couldn't agree more with those sentiments spoken by Oprah. These dialogues aren't always easy, but they are so important. My hope is that this episode and all the episodes I share will inspire you to listen a little more closely, reflect a little more deeply, and keep showing up for the conversations that matter most. Thank you for being here with me. It means so much to me that you're part of this journey. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to Wisdom Stripes. My name is Meg Tuohey, and in today's episode, we will explore the world of financial literacy, entrepreneurship, and the mindset shifts that can transform lives. Our guest today is Robert T. Kiyosaki, best known as the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the #1 personal finance book of all time. Robert is an entrepreneur, educator, and investor who has fundamentally changed how tens of millions of people worldwide think about money. He is a passionate advocate for financial education, and his no-nonsense, straight-talking approach has earned him international recognition. Through his books, teachings, and personal journey, Robert has simplified complex financial concepts and challenged the conventional wisdom around work, money, and investing. His belief? The traditional path, go to school, get a job, save, and invest for the long term, is outdated in today's rapidly evolving world. Instead, he empowers people to become financially educated and take control of their financial freedom. To dive deeper into the wisdom he's gained from decades of experience, the challenges he's faced, and the lessons that continue to guide him, I'm excited to welcome Robert to today's episode. This is Wisdom Stripes, your no-nonsense, fierce fairy godparents turning pain and confusion into clarity and confidence. Robert, we always start with the same question for our guests. What wisdom would you like a listener to come away with today?
That's a very good question, and thank you. And Aussie, 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 as they say.
Oi, 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 oi.
I mean, I have a love affair with Australia.
Well, I think it has one right back with you.
I say I went there to play rugby.
You did?
And rugby was passion.
In the 70s, yeah?
Yeah, I played gridiron, which is American football helmets, and I was okay.
Yeah.
So the lesson is you got to find the sport. And I mean, in anything in life, be it sports or work, or you're passionate. So I played gridiron. I was okay. I tried to get scholarships, but I wasn't good enough to get scholarships. And so I finally graduated from, went to very good military school in New York.
Okay.
And academy. And then I went to fly for the U.S. Marine Corps. So I went to flight school in Pensacola, Florida. The Vietnam War was still on. And I didn't have to go. I was draft exempt. But I felt if I didn't go, I'd be dodging it. You know what I mean? So I was at flight school. I went out for gridiron again with the helmets. And our quarterback was this guy named Roger Staubach. He was famous. Went to Naval Academy. I went to Kings Point.
Yeah.
Like sister schools,
Yeah.
And I couldn't catch his ball. I mean, Staubach was, he was such a pro. He played for Dallas Cowboys and all that. This guy was heads and shoulders above any football player I ever played against. And it hurt to catch his ball. I mean, like this. So I asked my roommate, who was Naval Academy also, I said, we got to do something else. This is crazy. These guys are so good. He says, well, let's play rugby. I said, what's rugby? He says, I don't know, but I hear they drink a lot. I said, I'll do it. And it's a long way of saying. So I went out just for the beer. And this is in Pensacola, Florida. And I packed down. And for anybody who's played rugby, the game was like crystal in my head. I knew the game like that.
Really?
And that passion set in. And I spent the next years of my life worthlessly traveling the world, drinking beer and playing rugby. I played in London. I played in, of course, Kiwi land, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, U.S., and South Africa. So my whole message is there is something inside every one of us that passion fires off. And when you find that, that's when your spirit comes alive. And I don't know how I survived during those years, trying. I don't like the word try. But how do I play rugby for the rest of my life?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
It just my spirit carried me. So now I'm an old guy. I was just in Paris, France for the Rugby World Cup. And I'm the old codger up in the beer, still drinking beer, watching rugby.
Yeah.
And it was just a passion. And it's the same as my work.
Yeah.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad is passion.
Yeah.
What do our schools teach us about money? Nothing. So the passion comes out because as far as I know, most people use money. As far as I know. And yet our schools are attempting to prepare us for the real world. Isn't money one of those subjects? But for some reason, it seems to me that the academic types, like my poor dad went to Stanford, University of Chicago, Northwestern. But it's a PhD. And I always say PhD stands for poor, helpless, and desperate. And he loved his work. He loved teaching. But I don't think it was a passion. If you know what I mean? He was smart. He was good. A student, validated from university in 2 years. But I never saw the passion, if I make what I mean. He was very good academically, though.
Yes, well, that he loved maybe the learning, but it feels like when you described rugby, it was a recognition. There was like a coming home. There was like this matches me and it feels complete.
Yes.
Yeah. And so maybe you're describing your dad, poor dad, as not having had that experience in his working life. Is that what you're saying?
I would say so, yes. And it was kind of sad.
Yeah.
Because he was smart, academically smart, but not passionate. So he was just good at what he did.
Did you see him have passion in other spaces of his life?
No.
And so was the first time you ever had that feeling when you found rugby? Or do you remember having that feeling of recognition and everything lighting up earlier than rugby?
And not to get too technical, but there's different types of rugby.
Yeah.
There's Aussie rules, which is more Gaelic, like Irish rugby.
Yeah.
And then there's league, and then there's union.
Yeah.
And I tried each one. But union, which is where the scrum packs down. The moment I packed down as a breakaway on the team, numbers, like I knew the game. It was like I was crystal.
Like
You
you'd already,
you didn't have to teach me the game.
you could see it in your mind's eye.
I knew that, but it's micro. You know, generally that's some guy's big butt in my face. You know? And then there's 15 other guys on the other side, and
Yeah.
they're all ready to rip your head off, and, you know, like, but so you got a micro, that's just my view here,
Yeah.
and macro, I could see the whole field. I just knew the game.
You knew
I
the
don't know
game.
how it happened.
Recognition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the same as when it comes to money or writing. I didn't go to school for money. You know, I went to school. I'm a marine engineer. I'm a marine engineering type.
Okay.
I drove tankers for Standard Oil of California. So I was trained as an oil man.
Okay.
So there was the Valdez, Alaska, the spill. The tanker hit the reef in Valdez, Alaska.
Mm.
Valdez was the first port of call I made as a student. I mean, I missed the reef, though. I didn't hit the reef.
Mm.
And then I went to flight school because the Vietnam War, I graduated in 69. I was making about $120,000 a year in 1969.
It's a lot of money.
It's not much money today, but for a college kid,
Oh, back then?
120 was a lot of money.
A lot of money.
And the Vietnam War was still on. My brother got drafted.
Mm.
Then my conscience came in. I said, well, am I dodging the war too? And that's when I signed up for Vietnam. So I went from making $120,000 a year, working 7 months a year, that's all, to making $200 a month as a Marine lieutenant. But it was a sense of spiritual responsibility.
Was it a recognition similar, even though it didn't light up the same way? Was there a sense that this was on my path and this is something I must complete?
No, I wasn't that conscious. I was a rugby player. I was into beer in the rear with the women and the beer, you know, just chasing, having a good time.
Having a good time.
And, but it was just when they drafted my kid brother, and I went, God, what if he dies? I don't come back. I would hate myself. So I gave $120,000 with Standard to make $200 a month as a Marine lieutenant, flying in Vietnam.
Okay. And you and your brother, did you return safely?
Yes. But the saddest thing was I had classmates I went to high school with and all that. I'm a baby boomer. I was born in 47, like Trump and I about the same age. And we're carrier pilots. And we'd fly these airstrikes into Vietnam. And then your best friend doesn't come back.
Yeah.
It's the saddest, Megan, the saddest experience. I stand on the deck, aircraft going like this, carrier. And I'm scanning the horizon, hoping upon hope that my friend and his crew comes back. They don't come back. I mean, they're just, so I go to they have the Vietnam Wall in Washington, D.C. And so I go touch their names on the wall.
Yeah.
Never saw them again.
Yeah. I'm curious about the wisdom of loss. You touch their names. I think I can relate.
Yes.
Do you also have inside of you a thread of connection?
We're complete.
Where you can feel them still?
Say thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you have that.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay.
One more story is that one of my friends was my classmate from elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
Very smart young man. He went to Dartmouth. Very smart guy. He flew for the Marine Corps also. And his aircraft never came back.
Mm.
So they held a ceremony just for him. And his favorite bird was a seagull. Megan, a seagull showed up.
Yeah, it did.
This is in Hawaii. People were Hawaiians are pretty superstitious. They were going, holy mackerel. This seagull just sat.
I have a similar story.
Yeah.
My grandmother died, and at her funeral, I was sitting next to her identical twin sister that I had never met. It was the first time I met her at her wake, and we were sitting talking, and it was dusk. It was after the funeral in the wake, and this huge moth, this big, fluttered over and came up to my face, went over to her twin's face, came back to my face, went over to her twin's face. And she had black hair. The moth looked like her. And at very important moments right across my life, there are always moths.
Wow.
There are moths every time something important is happening.
Yeah.
Isn't that so curious?
Yeah.
What do you think that is?
I don't know, because I've never been quote unquote religious.
Yeah.
I would say I'm spiritual, but I couldn't drink the Kool-Aid,
Yeah.
And so that was the hard part for me.
Mm.
Yet I've had too many, many, many miracles
Yeah.
to not sense there's a higher power.
Yes.
That's the difference.
Something about interconnection.
Yes.
Yeah. And also something about nothing ever being lost.
Yeah.
I think nothing is ever lost. It might have changed
Yes.
form.
The Buddha says just changes shape. It transforms.
There we go. That's what it
Yeah.
feels like.
I was born on Buddha's birthday, but I'm not Buddhist,
I mean, that's pretty auspicious.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
April 8th, Buddha's birthday.
Well, it's coming up to your birthday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. All right. Rich Dad, Poor Dad changed your life, changed the world. What was that like? Tell us about that with the beauty of time. Many decades have passed since that book was released. Tell us the journey of the book and what it means to you.
Again, it's this past Tuesday. What's today? March 25th or something, or
Something.
2025.
Yeah.
Just last Tuesday, I had another one of these experiences.
Mm.
I could not possibly have dreamt it possible.
Yeah.
But I was working on a problem, and people flew in from Singapore, Japan, and Aussie for a meeting I had scheduled for Tuesday morning
Mm.
in Phoenix, Arizona.
Mm.
And these people showed up unplanned for. I never asked them. And they were the perfect people. I've known them for years. But they said, we're just coming to sit in. So that's a big part of it. The biggest part, my teacher was Dr. R. Buckminster Fuller. He invented the geodesic dome. John Denver wrote a song about him called What One Man Can Do. And Fuller was considered one of the greatest geniuses of our times. And my poor dad loved Bucky because we'd build those models of tetrahedron, triangles, icosahedrons, dodecahedrons. And Fuller called these models, like the geodesic dome, these are the building blocks of universe. So the triangle is the first building block.
Yeah. Because
a triangle holds its shape.
Yes.
He says there's no such thing as a straight line.
Yeah.
The only places straight lines are in school.
Yes.
That's what Fuller says. So I'm studying with my poor dad. And in 1967, I'm in school in New York, military school, U.S. Merchant Marine Academy. And I hitchhiked from New York to Montreal, Canada for Expo 67. And I went to see Fuller's dome.
Wow.
Because the dome was the U.S. pavilion at Expo 67, the Expo in the future. And I still haven't met Fuller, I've just been following because my dad and all this. And so in 1981, I went to a seminar in Lake Tahoe, California. And Fuller was doing a talk there. So I figured I better go listen to him. So I traveled from Hawaii, where I was living. I flew into Lake Tahoe. And I'm sitting there, and Fuller's the most boring guy in the world.
Hmm.
I was sound asleep like I was in school.
Hmm.
And so I volunteered to handle the cameras. So I sat there, and I took Fuller in for 1 week through the right eye.
Ooh.
And they said that's how we absorb knowledge, is for vision. So I'm taking him in for 5 to 6 days straight. Then all of a sudden I look up, and he went like this to me. And I collapsed.
Yeah.
I went, what hit me? What hit me?
Yeah.
But the line that really hit me was, he said, Fuller said, the big mistakes that people make is you ask them, what do you want to do? Fuller says, that's a stupid question. He says, the question you should ask yourself is, what does God want done? What does God want done? And you go do it. I went, so that's when I collapsed.
Yeah.
I was sobbing like a little baby.
Right.
Because all my life I've been killing and flying, doing it for me. But I wasn't doing it for God.
Yeah.
And with that, I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's what I thought what God wanted done. And then 3 years later, Fuller wrote the book, The Grunch of Giants. And grunch stands for gross universal cash ice. It's how our monetary system rips us off, rips our wealth off via our money. Because if you look at it, Rich Dad said never save money. Because when you hold a dollar, the price of gold goes up. It's not that the price of gold's going up, it's your dollar's coming down. So the whole financial system in Bucky's book, Grunch of Giants, I don't recommend it, boring book. But Grunch of Giants basically says our wealth is stolen via our money. So today we have the Federal Reserve Bank, the Bank of Australia, Bank of England. They're all Marxists. By structure and all that, they're Marxist organizations. So we have this growing gap right now between rich and poor. And now I've never seen such homelessness. Like I was sailing out of San Francisco for Standard Oil, the most beautiful city on earth.
Yes.
It's like Sydney, just gorgeous.
Beautiful.
And homelessness and things are shuttering down. And I think it was Thomas Jefferson said, it says, if we allow a central bank into our system, our children will wake up homeless in the country their fathers fought for. And this is Jefferson back in 1700, when the first central bank was proposed in America. It's Marxist. It's designed to steal our wealth via our money. So with all of that, it's a long way of saying I knew too much. I've got to write Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I think that's the only difference that makes a difference, because I flunked out of high school twice because I can't write. I got Fs. And it's not that I couldn't write. My teachers didn't agree with what I wrote, which is First Amendment censorship, freedom of speech. But in academics, there's no freedom there.
No.
You are told what to do, that you're labeled smart or stupid. Mm-hmm. And that's why I wrote another book I wrote was, you want to be rich, don't go to school.
Well, the school system produces a certain type of experience, and it is a good experience for a certain type of person.
Right.
And most people don't fit into that definition.
Well, that's what I'm saying. My poor dad fit.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really him. He was smart.
Yeah.
Another guy named Victor Davis Hanson, he teaches at, I think, Stanford. And he says, our biggest criticism now is our schools went woke.
Yeah, right.
DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. I said it should be DIE, diversity, inclusion, exclusion. You die if you go to school.
Yeah.
So that's why you see you go woke, you go broke. And that started by schools.
Yeah. How do you juggle the human experience and all of its differences? Because I think when I look at you, my friend, and forgive me if I get this wrong, but it feels like you don't fit into the middle of the bell curve. You're a lovely outlier of thinking, and you have a very clever brain. You see the world through different eyes. You're not in that middle part of the bell curve yourself. Yeah. And so you didn't fit into the school. And that has been maybe the biggest gift there is. And so when I think about other kids who don't fit into the school system, that I think the woke movement is trying to support, I can see the value in supporting differences in people, because look at what we get when we have people like you who are outliers, and wonderfully so. What do you think about that?
Well, there's, I appreciate that, but what Fuller taught me is humans were designed to learn from our mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
And our schools punish us for making mistakes.
They do. I agree.
So, I think are you in psychology or therapy?
A little bit.
Well, one of my biggest secrets is I see a therapist all the time.
Well, me too.
Because I know I'm nuts.
Outliers.
I know I'm crazy.
Well, it's okay. Yeah.
Because it's not okay.
You're interesting.
I want to find out what's driving me.
Isn't it so fascinating?
Well, it's
endless.
It's
fascination.
Tough,
and tough. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But because I know I'm screwed up, and I know there's more to me.
Yeah.
So that's why I started. As far as religion was, I had to go to church until I was 12.
Okay.
But my dad says, choose any church you want to go to.
Okay.
So he suggested I go to every different religion.
Oh, yeah.
And after age 12, I came back. I said, I'm not going back to church anymore. And he says, why not? He says, they basically say the same thing,
Yeah.
which is good stuff. It's good. Different histories like, Judaism versus Christianity versus Mormonism versus Calvinism, Methodists, Catholics. And so I was out, But knowing that there's possibly a God is why I see a therapist.
What's the connection?
Get me out of the way of God.
Oh, yes. Right? You've got to get the human and move it away sometimes so you can be connected to God's source universe.
Well, I have a U.S. Marine. I didn't choose the Marine Corps because, the story is choices. Vietnam War was hot. It was 1969. They were looking for pilots. So I went to this huge meeting. It's like 2,000 or 3,000 young, only men in those days. They had an Army, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, Marine. And they're all looking for pilots.
Mm.
So the Air Force guy gets up there and he says, we have the best golf courses. And the Navy says, we hit aircraft carriers. The Army says, we have the most, da-da-da-da. And the Coast Guard says, we save people's lives. And so the Marine stood up there and he says, look here, you effing, da-da-da-da. He says, you want to play golf? Join the Air Force. You want to swim in the water? Go play with the Navy. You want to drive tanks? Fly for the Army. You want to save lives? Join the Coast Guard.
Wow.
He says, make no doubt about it, Marines do one thing. We kill people. Be clear on your mission, son.
Mm.
He says, we are here to kill people. We fight to win. And out of the 1,000 in the room, maybe about 600 in the room, there was only about 20 of us went to the Marines. I was clear that what I was being trained to do was to kill people. Crystal clear. I wasn't there to save people's lives. I was there to fight. And so those are some of the differences that, choices give us in life. So the reason I see therapy is make better choices.
Do you agree with the choice you made all those years ago?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many people you've killed, but it's pretty interesting in business.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to war, let's not pretend.
Well, let's not pretend.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Because wars are designed to protect what is important, and both sides are trying to protect what is important to them, right?
War is big business.
It's big business. On the way here in the plane, actually, I flew in not last night, the night before, and I watched all of season 2 of a show called Lioness, which is a kill unit designed from, and I think perhaps fictionally, from an American government perspective. They send in this kill unit to quietly make the moves that need to be made in order to protect the governance sovereignty of America. And the show, I thought, was very powerful. And I, for the first time, really understood. And I know that this might sound naive, but I haven't had a big war in my lifetime that has really come close to my doorstep the same way that you have. I really understood the need to be the person that will do the kill unit if it came to that from a war perspective. And that was a shocking realization because I have had the protection of peace somewhat across my lifetime.
Yep.
But peace is hard earned and hard fought for. And in the storytelling of this show, I could see that there are men and women that are still upholding that peace in kill units so that people like me don't have to think about it. And I was very grateful. I cried on the plane at the understanding of what people do for my freedom and my safety and my peace.
Yeah, and it's human nature. Like in England, with the knights, the nobles.
Yeah.
In Japanese culture, which I am, was a samurai,
Yeah.
and my whole family samurai.
Really.
So it fits my spirit. There's people who shouldn't. There was this one guy, I really felt for him, went to high school with him, and he got drafted. This guy should have been a preacher or something, but he was not a killer. He couldn't kill. He was really not weak, but just shy and afraid.
Mm.
And I heard his own lieutenant had to shoot him because what he did was when they said charge, he turned and ran. The lieutenant went and shot him. He says you cannot break ranks. It's all military talk.
Yeah.
Once we go, we go.
All in. I'm getting chills from head to toes. I remember this scene in the season 2. So if you haven't watched season 2, Lioness, do not listen to this bit. It's a spoiler. But essentially, they are backed into a corner. There's a unit of 6 or 8, and there is wave after wave of enemy approaching, and they have injuries. 3 of them are shot. It looks like it's over until the bombers come in, and it is resolved. But just before it is resolved, it is them saying that they love their loved ones. It's their last moments they think they are here for. And to have the courage and bravery and they were all together, their unit was all together. And the main character, Zoe Saldana, I might say that incorrectly, she said, "Save the bullets for us," to the person who was injured, because if they're coming, don't let them capture us.
Right.
We'll be tortured, kill us,
right.
Do that for us. Do you understand?
Right.
And the individual said, "Got it, I'll do it." And the horror of war was so visible in the cinematography, in the storyline, in the acting, in the production, that I felt like I was there, and it was like time stood still.
Right.
Is that what war is, or is it worse or different?
Thank you for saying that. There's no greater love. When I go into battle, it's because I love my country.
Right.
I love my aircraft had a crew of 5. Like there was two pilots, 2 crew chief who are like 19 years old, and we've got the crew chief. And my job was bring them home alive.
Right.
That was my only job. It wasn't to be John Wayne or be a hero or Rambo,
Mm.
It was to make sure we did our job and got home alive. So that's why I tell the story of standing on the deck of the aircraft carrier waiting for my friend Robbie to come back. He didn't bring his crew back. He didn't come back. And it's such sadness. It's not hate. That's what's hard to understand. And when somebody's shooting at you, it's natural response. Like we've all heard about people that somebody breaks into the house.
Yeah.
What would you do if it was going to take your child?
Anything.
Yeah. There's evil on planet Earth, so I'm saying.
There is.
And all of us, we have it inside of us too. And we can bring it up if we have to.
Under great pressure?
Yes. Well, some people it's closer to the surface like me.
Generally, general population
Pretty
under great
easy,
pressure.
Yeah.
But isn't that sort of the same thing as when we can lift a car off a child?
Yes.
We can do
Exactly.
whatever it takes in those moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I was talking to another classmate who went, he says, "I'm alive today because dead men kept fighting."
Yeah.
And I don't know if people have ever seen it. There's bullets going through people and they're still fighting. Their spirits are so strong.
Yeah.
I have a picture of Donald Trump. His ear is patched.
Yes.
It was the day after he and I were talking. And I said, "That's how close you came." And he wanted to find out what it was like to be a Marine pilot. And I said, "This is, there before the grace of God go why?" Because all we hear is sit, 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 sit.
Yeah.
Just the bullets coming through the aircraft. You can't see it. You can't do this Hollywood stuff, So you just sit and hope they miss you. So he said the same with them.
Yeah, so it has that
Yeah.
there, but for the grace of God.
Go on.
Because which way do I go? And does it matter? And probably it does, but also you can't tell. You have to follow the path.
Right.
And the path rises up to meet you. And if your path is your ending of this life, that's one ending. And then sometimes you get to make it through. And that is, I think, the great illusion of being alive, is you just never really know when your time's up.
But that's what I liked about when I started studying religion versus being forced to adopt a religion, It's like in Christianity and Buddhism and all that. It comes from your heart.
Yeah.
I didn't go to work because I hated people. I
No.
went there because I love my country. I love my people.
Yeah.
Love my team, Same in business.
I think it is about love.
Yeah.
And it's about what you'll do to protect those you love and to
Right.
lead through times that require great leadership.
Correct.
I understand.
Yeah. One last war story is I was 1966. I went to Vietnam for the first time. I had just read the Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx.
Okay.
Military school, we were required to study Marx. And I went, wow. Most of my friends are Marxists. They just don't know it.
Yeah.
Workers of the world unite, abolition of private property. This guy Klaus Schwab of World Economic Forum and all that. Someday you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. Right? All Marxists.
Mm.
So, you can read into it. So I'm in Vietnam. I'm a student, midshipman, they call them. I'm got a beer. It's beautiful. Vietnam's such a beautiful country, beautiful people.
It is.
Beautiful sandy beaches,
Wonderful food.
Yeah, wonderful food.
Wonderful food.
And I'm sitting there talking to a little bar girl. I says, hey, what does a Viet Cong look like? And she goes, I'm 19 years old. She goes, those are all Viet Cong sitting right there. And there were guys my age, just Vietnamese. So those are Viet Cong. She goes, yeah. So I walked over and bought him a beer.
Right.
And we did our book, because I didn't speak Vietnamese, they didn't speak English.
Yeah.
And we did our best, and we realized we're brothers, basically.
But isn't that the common thread of humanity?
Yes.
And so isn't it then so sacred to talk about war in that context?
Well, it should have been a beer commercial. Because towards the end of the day, we're all in love, hugging each other, say, hey, and all that.
Right.
It was like a rugby team reading rugby team, and
Yeah.
that's I turned around, the guy says, I said, look, I'm coming back.
Yeah.
I was going to come back as a Marine this time. And he says, we'll be waiting. There was no anger.
No.
So I always remember that kid. It was about 2 or 3 of them.
Never forget.
It's humans in humanity towards humans.
Right. Both fighting for something that
everybody has it,
Yeah, and also both fighting for something important and yet also able to be united.
Yes.
That's poignant.
Like I said, it should have been a beer commercial.
Oh, I do like that. Okay, so I have a big question about your beautiful brain, because to me it looks like a Ferrari brain that's super fast, loves to learn, and gathers all of the pieces and then can synthesize and translate them into things that we see, like books. You've taken a lot of ideas and synthesized it into a book, which has been incredibly valuable.
Thank you.
My curiosity is about that beautiful brain and where it gathered the foundations that made the book what it is this global phenomenon.
I really go back to the statement or the question that Bucky Fuller asked.
Yeah.
What does God want done?
Yeah.
Then go do it.
Yeah.
So it became like, I was already interested in money.
Yeah.
But I now had to become a student of it to research it.
Yeah.
And the more I researched it, was wow. His book was called The Grunch of Giants, his last book. Well, he had one last book after he passed. But GRUNCH stands for Gross Universal Cash Heist.
Mm.
It's how our wealth is stolen via our money.
Mm-hmm.
So every time I see the guy in the grocery store packing stuff up and, our school saying save money and get a good job, get good grades, all this, I'm going, they're not telling people the truth.
Mm.
So most of my life I've saved gold. save silver and Bitcoin today because the money system, fiat, F-I-A-T, is government money, is corrupted.
Mm-hmm.
And when I see the homelessness growing and all this, and there's a thing called bifurcation. Bifurcation in business, it's a sine wave that goes up. It's in geometry, it goes up. And a bifurcation is the sine splits, and one part turns down, and the other part goes up. That's the bifurcate. So what happens in 1971 when Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, every time they print money, which they're printing $1 trillion every 10 months now, the bifurcation goes as when they print money, the poor and middle class get poorer because inflation goes up for them when you fake money. And the bifurcation is the rich get richer who have real assets.
Hey there, Meg Tuohey here with a quick and exciting announcement. As a psychologist, coach, and founder of the Wisdom Lab, I've had the privilege of helping thousands of individuals break free from the vicious cycles holding them back and tap into their infinite inner wisdom. If you're tired of feeling unheard, unseen, and stuck in the same old struggles, the Wisdom Lab is the breakthrough you've been yearning for. This on-demand program guides you through a powerful process to shatter emotional barriers, overcome deep-rooted blocks, and experience the profound transformation you deserve. In just 4 hours, you'll gain the tools and insights to revolutionize your life from the inside out. Want to learn more? Click or tap the link in the show notes for all the details. Okay, now back to the episode.
So I have gold, silver, cattle, food. Unfortunately, the bifurcate is the poor and middle class go to the supermarket. You can't get eggs today, or you can't afford them. Milk's gone up, chicken, food, beef. So we're in the great bifurcation right now.
Yeah.
And it's going to test our souls. Because when I see the amount of homelessness, it just breaks my heart.
Yeah.
But you can't help them by giving them more money because the money is the problem.
Yeah. And the system.
Yes.
The system is not systeming well.
Correct.
I saw in Australian dollars, general laundry detergent was $32 a litre. A litre. And this was like your straightforward, it wasn't fancy, and it was in a normal grocery store. And I saw a friend of mine post the image of the price ticket at a very well-known large chain that's obviously price gouging because we have a duopoly in Australia of the grocery system. And I was like, 32, that's a typo. Shouldn't it be $3.20 a litre? $32 a litre?
Right.
I mean, that's insane.
Yeah, and groceries chains operate in the smallest margins.
Yeah.
Clothes have to operate on 200% margin. Grocery stores are about 7% margin. So when they say they're gouging people, well, the supply system's breaking down on them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Talk to us about the antidote, because I understand there is a philosophy that is the old way is not working. Get a job after you've been well educated, save your money, and the good life is here. That doesn't exist anymore. What does exist, and where do we go in this current economic climate where the value of money is getting less and less and less?
Well, that's why it's the definition of money. Money is an idea backed by confidence, representing work truly done, and it's exchangeable. But it has to hold its value. The current system of money, the Aussie dollar, the Kiwi, peso, the yen, the euro, all designed to make people poorer. And our school system says nothing about it. Just like I'm watching, Trump and I wrote 2 books together. He's a good friend of mine. And he's going with Doge right now. They're going in to look at, and they're calling our government bureaucracies, we call those things, money laundering operations. So there's politicians like Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. They're all not only Democrats, but majority of Democrats. And they're catching them left-handed, right-handed, stealing money. Chuck Schumer has net worth of $75 million. He only makes $200,000 a year. but it's because of the money laundering system. And that's what Trump and Elon Musk are picking up. And I thought it was interesting, here's Elon Musk. He sends a rocket up, rescues those two astronauts up there, been for 200 days. And does anybody cheer him for that? No, they're burning Teslas now. They set fire to Tesla pumps, those charge stations and all that. And it's because of lack of awareness. What is this guy Musk doing? They're doing it to make the place better by exposing corruption. But people don't see it that way. And today, March 25th, 2025, Trump is signing the executive order to shut down the Department of Education. That means another 100,000 people will lose their jobs. And so the anger against Trump and Musk and all that will just increase. So right now, I'd be afraid to drive a Tesla because somebody might attack it, which makes about as much sense as anything. But that's what's going on in the news today.
Yes. So I'm really curious because the American politics is something I'm learning because I am native to Australia. I live in Australia. And when we look at the Democrats looking at the Republicans, there is quite a lot of big feelings. And we look at before Trump was elected and was a question mark about who would be the next leader when Biden's term was finishing. And the Republicans were quite angry with the Democrats. So we have these two divided sides with very big feelings about each other. And both think the other is corrupt and both think the other one does harm. And one thinks one is too hard, one thinks the other is too soft. And I'm sure there's a whole lot more detail that I'm not well educated enough to discern or distill here. But talk to me about unification or being able to come together. And where is America going to be able to do that? Because that's the piece I feel like that we could.
Well, I hesitate to say this.
Tell me.
This is where war comes in.
Well, this is my curiosity. Yeah.
There's like this attack, and the country unites behind the attack.
Well, this is what was in Lioness, which has turned out to be an invaluable deep dive that I did on the way here, because they were referencing in there that a good leader unites their country through an attack on somebody else.
Yes.
And that's often what brings countries together.
That's correct.
And is that something you might anticipate here?
Well, just look at the news. You have, Taiwan. You have Gaza Strip right now, and you have the Ukraine.
Yeah.
And you have the streets here, in America.
Yeah.
One thing I want to tell a little funny story is, the thing I like about Aussie.
Yeah.
Is your politics are they're the same but different. Your sense of humor is so funny. When old Clinton was caught with his pants down with Monica Lewinsky.
Yes.
Oh, the Aussie press just had the best time with that one. They couldn't help themselves.
I mean, that does sound like an Aussie.
No, they were laughing. They made such cheeky, not nasty, but rude remarks against Monica, but they were going after your Prime Minister, Johnny Howard.
Oh, yes.
Oh, they ripped him apart.
Yes, I remember.
Oh, God. So Aussie's attack at least comes with a sense of dirty humor. I love it.
Often it does.
Yes, it's just, I sit there and crack up, American stuff I don't laugh about, but Aussie I laugh all the time.
Maybe it's closer to home, right?
Well, they make fun of it. They say, if he's making fun of Johnny Howard, wouldn't go out with Monica Lewinsky or something like this.
That sounds about the Aussie style. Agreed. Yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah. Yeah. So wisdom, let's go back to wisdom. I would love to know one of the things that you're working on right now, and bonus points if you can tell us something that you're finding challenging, finding hard, because you never get it done, right? And as you're working through life, there's always a new frontier to grow through and grow into your next identity of who you are. What are you working on? What's hard? And what are you doing to help grow yourself?
Well, the thing on wisdom, when I studied with Bucky Fuller, he says the problem with schools is they go specialized, like you become a doctor,
Mm.
general practitioner, then you specialize, you become orthopedic surgeon or prenatal care or skin care and all this. And he says you shouldn't go specialized, you should go generalized.
Mm.
And what Fuller came up with were the generalized principles of universe or the principles of God. And he says there's no exception. So one of the generalized principles is precession. So he says when you drop a stone in the water, the ripples go out at 90 degrees.
Mm.
It's always at 90 degrees. He says that's God's law. It's a generalized principle. So he says when I'm going from here back home, I'm setting off precessional waves.
Mm.
So we're always causing precession. But the other thing that I learned from him was unity is plural, at minimum 2. And what that meant was all coins have 3 sides. So intelligence means not taking a side.
Yeah.
It's standing on the edge of the coin, which is the third side,
Yeah.
and understanding both sides. And that's what I'm attempting to sell, is can we be wisdom, wise, intelligent? Can we look at both sides and understand both sides? Just like I said, that in Vietnam would have been a great beer commercial.
Right.
We saw both sides.
I wonder if it's something like the idea of the compassionate observer.
Yes.
Where you've got
a wise observer.
Right. You've got a little bit of distance.
Yeah.
And you can see 2 sides.
Don't take a side.
Well, what is a side? A side, that this is the essence of what we're talking about, isn't it?
There's always 2 sides.
Yeah.
It's impossible to have a one-sided coin.
It's impossible.
So there's always 3 sides.
Mm.
And then your mind,
Yeah.
And then I realized, like, I have a hot temper.
Mm.
And I've got to really look at the other side, which means keep my mouth shut and hear the other side.
You have a hot temper.
Oh.
Like how hot? 1 jalapeno? 3 jalapenos? How many jalapenos?
No, but it works. It works for my personality, if you know what I mean. Like when I was going to Vietnam, I had to get hot that quick. You don't have time to go. Because when somebody, one of my friends, we had to pick up bodies. Yeah, tough,
So it served you.
But you still see, so the other guys are shooting, and we'd come in and scoop the bodies onto our aircraft and take off. And just stay calm, seeing both sides. Not losing it.
So the temper is a bit of fire.
Oh, God.
That allowed you to have the fortitude to do the hard things in your life.
Right. Well, sometimes it's too fast.
And so now, as we move through your timeline, we're looking at a balancing or a development of what kind of words would you like to develop that is the opposite of temper?
Stoic.
Stoic.
So can I be the observer? My cardiologist, he's also a doctor of acupuncture.
Ooh.
So he comes from the East, educated in the West.
Mm. So
he has both sides.
I do love the both.
And he says, he's Hindu.
Mm.
So he says, be an observer of yourself.
Mm.
To be metta.
Metta.
Metta positioned.
Yeah, or meta conversation.
Yes.
Sometimes we have to have conversations about the conversations.
With ourselves, too.
Oh, yeah, with ourselves.
Yeah.
So do you like that I've added in the word compassionate to the observer?
It's a very important word.
Mm.
Very, very important. It's not a word you take lightly.
No.
But understand, when the picture I have of Trump in me, his ear was shot. I was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin with him.
Yeah.
And across the street was a used bookstore. So I walked across the street and I bought this book, Living Buddha, Living Christ.
Mm.
And it took apart Christ and Buddha.
East and West.
Yeah.
Is
And
it? Or East and East?
in there
Yeah.
is, on both Christianity and Buddhism, is can you see it with compassion? Can you hold compassion? Like they say, mindfulness is the door to the Trinity, Holy Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. So this guy really does walk the thread of both Buddhism and Christianity.
Mm.
And he was written by a Vietnamese monk. So,
It seems to me in the days after Trump was shot, I observed him come back from that with a different tone in his body. He wasn't yelling, and I don't mean yelling. He was leading. That's a better way to say it. He was leading in a way that I didn't anticipate he would.
right.
What do you understand about that experience for him?
Well, he never talking about it because not too many people have been shot at.
No.
So like I was telling about what it's like to have that for me was about the closest.
Mm.
And also the other thing you said, I had to agree with my co-pilot. If we went down and my legs were gone, he was to shoot me.
Yeah.
I didn't want to come back. So we're clear, very clear on next action. But Trump and I talked about destiny then. Why weren't we killed? Why are we still alive? And so that's why it goes back to our whole conversation today. What does God want done?
Mm.
And you may never know, but you better find it in your heart what God wants done.
Maybe it could become a question to sit with and leave open on your heart.
What does God want done?
Yeah, because I do have this sense that when we ask a good question, our beautiful brain and nervous system, our subconscious starts to gather the answers. And if we can bring that attunement into that heart space, it shall illuminate for us what our job is
Right.
in this life, what our legacy is, and what our path could look like. Yeah.
And another great president was Abraham Lincoln. He says, with malice towards none.
Oof.
Can you operate with malice towards none? Those are powerful words. When you can feel it in your, that's what the book, Living Buddha, Living Christ, is. It's found here. And can you come from there? And the book also said, with both Christianity and Buddhism says it, just going to church isn't enough. Got to practice it.
Do you feel like your friend Trump and maybe your friend Musk are able or live in that ethos around malice?
I think they do, but the problem with leadership is everybody will have their opinion, right or wrong.
Yeah.
So it's tough, it's very, very tough. This guy Vivek Ramaswamy. I'm having dinner with his business partner tonight, Jared.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
Yeah. These guys are smart, rich, wise men. They're not cruel and evil, which is different,
I'm really curious. It feels like 3 months ago when we started this conversation on this couch, we started with the seagull and the moth. And I talked to you about the thread that connects and that no one is ever lost. The form might change.
Right.
I just really feel in that moment, it sounds like your mum's thread of connection to you was strong and clear and true. Is that how you make sense of that, or is it different?
No, basically say we have 4 intelligences.
Yeah.
Okay? It's a you have lines, then you have squares. Squares don't hold their shape, four-sided. You have to add the other shape to it, and that forms a tetrahedron. Then it holds its shape. Like a triangle holds its shape, but a square will not.
Yeah.
So the four intelligences that form up a tetrahedron, one is mental, then there's emotional, which is probably the highest of all of them. Then there's physical intelligence and spiritual. So you look at a guy like Tiger Woods. To be a professional golfer, he's got to have all four intelligences. So his physical intelligence, I mean, the way he can guide his golf club. And guys like me, my goal is point that way and this way and this way. But commercially, the reason I created the cash flow board game for people was to inspire for intelligence. So you get to see mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. And spiritual is the side that if you fall down, can you stand up? And once you can stand up, what does God want done? What Martin Luther King said, I just want to do God's will.
Yeah.
He said that just before he got shot. I've been to the mountaintop and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I probably will get to the promised land. I just want to do God's will. He was taken out the next day.
The next day.
That's the world we live in.
That's the world we live in.
Yeah.
So my curiosity, one of my last questions, is around this availability for our listeners. So our listeners are here and they're thinking about those four types of intelligence or skills. Are they achievable for everybody?
We all have them. They're just in other people less developed or underdeveloped or not recognized. And speaking of intelligences, is what really makes you rich are skills. What are your skills you carry? So when I was getting out of the Marine Corps, I was flying out of Hawaii, but my last tour with the Marines, and my poor dad says, get a job with the airlines. Most of my friends did. They flew for the airlines. And I said to my rich dad, I said, I don't want to be a pilot anymore. I've flown enough. I want to be an entrepreneur. He says, well, you can't be because you don't have the skills. And I said, what skills does an entrepreneur have to have? Which was a good question, right?
It's a good question.
He says, number one, you have to sell. And what came up again, how parents are important. My mom and dad hated salesmen. They're Marxists. Good people, but Marxists. They said salesmen are the scum of the earth. So I had to go against mom and dad. And then the next thing is I had to raise capital. So that's when I left the Marine Corps in 1974, my next skill, my job was to get the skills. So I talk to entrepreneurs constantly. They have to understand entrepreneurs have to know financial statements, income, expense, asset, liabilities. They have to be able to sell and communicate. And they also have to be able to raise capital. And when I meet so many people who don't make it, they work hard, but they lack the skills. So when I talk to young entrepreneurs, I say, do you have the skills? So Donald Trump and I are the only guys that endorse network marketing, because network marketing is about handling the fear of rejection. When you think about that one fear, for all of us, I mean, I hate rejection.
I'm not a fan either. We've got to build a tolerance to the distress of it.
But if you not let it stop you.
Exactly.
So that's why we recommended network marketing. As Amway was very good to me. They took my book all over the world. I didn't ask for that. But just because I endorsed them, I said, you have to learn how to sell. So you find brothers on the journey, brothers and sisters on the journey. So Amway wanted to have people learn how to sell. I agreed with them. And that helped spread my book all over the world.
So it's nearly your birthday. And I'm wondering what you wish for these next segments of your life.
That's a very good question. Like this past Tuesday was one of the most unbelievable days of my life. There had to be divine intervention what happened. But I'm trying, I hate the word try, grow the company. And these people showed up, one from Bond University.
Australia.
Yeah, Australia. And I went to school for 12-meter boats. So when Australia 2 beat Stars and Stripes. Dennis Connor's boat out of San Francisco, out of San Diego Yacht Club.
Mm.
So sitting in my living room is Australia 2, the 12-meter sailboat.
Wow.
So I brought this guy from Bond University because Alan Bond was the guy that
Correct.
financed Australia 2.
Correct.
So I brought this guy from Bond University and showed him Australia 2. And he started talking. He said, there's something mysterious going on here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't just rush out and find this huge model of a 12-meter boat.
No.
There was this love affair between me and the ocean and sailing and Aussie. And, when Aussie beat Dennis Connor for America's Cup, I was heartbroken.
Yeah.
But I was already in Australia, and I was talking to John Bertrand, who's the skipper of Australia 2.
Yeah.
So there's a compendium. The word is a compendium.
I like this.
Life goes on.
Life goes on. And you go.
All related.
Yes. Compendium is a very interesting word to me. It's got shimmers and sparkles.
Beautiful.
Waggy finger. Let's unpack. What's compendium?
Well, it's a journey we're all on.
It is intersections.
Yeah.
Brotherhood, sisterhood. It is the nuance.
It's also what's our purpose here.
Purpose.
Like Fuller said to me, he says, you didn't create this universe.
Nope.
And you certainly aren't running it.
Nope.
So you may as well do what God wants done. And that became the question. What does God want done? And what gifts did God give me to do my job for God? I'm not being religious now. There's a difference between religion and God.
Yeah.
And that's when I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah. Is there more to do in the Rich Dad, Poor Dad world, or is this complete?
Well, what's this, 8 billion people on planet Earth. Poverty is rampant. Most people are poor. Gap between rich and poor is going wider, like the bifurcation, poor middle class in America going down. The rich are getting higher. There's always work to be done.
Is that your work? Are you still taking that forward? Or
of course.
Has the torch passed to anyone else?
That's what happened last Tuesday, this week, 4 days ago.
I see.
These people showed up from Bond University. I'm going, I didn't call you guys.
You had 2 Australians in a week.
And from Singapore and from Japan showed up.
Wow.
And they all want to take my work forward. I was in Uzbekistan 3 months ago. And the universities have started a Rich Dad wing, teaching via games. Again, as Maria Montessori said, she was one of the greatest entrepreneurs of all time, Montessori school system. What the hand does, the mind remembers. But in school, we're forced to sit there and memorize.
Yes. And don't fidget.
And don't make mistakes.
Yeah. Don't make mistakes and don't move.
Right.
I find that archaic.
Oh, my God.
I really dislike this. Yeah. Sit still and listen.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that'd be like Tiger Woods trying to learn to play golf without a golf club.
Mm.
That's what school's like.
Yeah. It's time for an overhaul.
Yeah.
Mm.
So that's why Central Asian University, Uzbekistan, started a whole wing dedicated to games. And look at all the kids today.
Yeah.
They all play games.
Yeah. I had breakfast in the hotel this morning and there was 10 kids all on their iPads and they were all gaming. And
one more thing about Fuller, he predicted there would be cryptocurrency years and years ago.
Yeah.
I was sitting there listening to him. So why do you say that? He says, because the kids are playing it.
Yeah.
They're using crypto in all their games.
Yeah.
And then Bitcoin popped up.
Digital.
And I've made millions because of that.
You did?
Got to be aware. A little Boy Scout.
Yes.
So when Bitcoin appeared, I didn't know what it was, but I could hear Fuller saying, these kids are playing these games.
Yeah.
And there's going to be electronic money. And it's not possible in my old mind. I can't figure that out. But because Fuller said it, so that when Bitcoin hit 6,000, I went, oh.
Yeah.
And today is about 85,000.
Yeah. And growing, so they say.
So I've made millions.
Yeah.
That's the power of hanging out with Bucky Fuller.
Well, do you know what? We've reached the time where the audience and I and you all of us, we feel bonded, connected,
Yes.
relaxed. We've got to know each other.
Yes.
And so we're at the relaxed part of the time where we're all just got our metaphorical shoes off. We're in our comfy clothes. We've got a lovely drink and maybe some snacks. And we're all gathered, the listeners and I and you. We're just relaxed. Maybe we're on a porch. Maybe the sun's
Yes.
setting. Got some fireflies. Lovely breeze. And you can just smell some fresh grass clippings. Something like that. And there's a lull in the conversation. And then someone turns to you and they say, have you got any last advice or wisdom that you think we need to know? What would you say?
Well, again, it goes back to the generalized principles of Fuller. Unity is plural. It's all coins have three sides. You drop a stone in the water, there's always precession. You cannot not have precession. The other one is called ephemeralization. Ephemeralization is God's leverage. Just like when I borrow, I'm $1.2 billion in debt. So I borrow money to get richer, but it takes skill to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So what God wants done is people to ephemeralize. How do you do more and more with less and less? So what we're doing right now is ephemeralization. You see, 10 years ago, the academics would never let us in.
Mm.
Academics had control on information. But because academics have gone woke, and this popped up, so now that YouTube and such sites as that, they're putting up some of the most important people on earth, but they're not famous.
Yeah.
And they're speaking.
Yeah.
So that's God's way of acceleration, so we can get educated faster. And YouTube is one of those vehicles. It's called ephemeralization. How do we do more and more with less and less? So how do we teach more and more without a big university and all that?
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. That's what we're part of right now. Same as crypto.
So as we sit here, and I'm just going to channel the listener, I'm going to do you one of my favorite things to do, which is a yeah, but.
Okay.
Yeah, but Robert, how do I do that? Yeah, but what does that mean for me in my life where I need to go and work a job and I don't have money to invest, or I don't have what you have? Yeah, but how do we apply that in a daily life for most people?
Well, the yeah, but that's where Buddhism and Christianity come in. Meditation. Sit silently. Let your higher spirit talk to you. We're so chattery, we're inundated with phones and sit quietly and let spirit talk to you.
Do you have a way that you meditate specifically?
Yes, I get up every morning. I have what I call books of wisdom.
Yeah.
I randomly open to a page, and I'll take a chapter, not a chapter, but and I'll transcribe the words perfectly, and then I go outside, and I sit and listen to the words. So let the words attract the wisdom.
I see it.
They're not my words of wisdom; they're somebody else's.
Yeah, I understand, because the whole premise of Wisdom Stripes is that wisdom comes in many forms and many variations, right? And so,
and all too often we're too busy yakking and talking and being talked to.
Right. And the wisdom that I like to share here is that hard-earned, hard-won wisdom, where you get a stripe because you walk through something tricky. And then there is this piece that hopefully somebody can pick up and it matches the question that they're answering.
Right.
And they get to go faster because they've had access to the wisdom.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that.
And Compendium.
And Compendium.
Yeah. Very powerful words.
Very. Yeah. Robert, it has been such a joy to get to know you. Thank you for bringing your whole heart and sharing so openly with us.
It's been my honor and my pleasure. Thank the audience.
Yes.
The most valuable thing you have is your time, and thank the audience for giving us their time.
Yes. And thank you for giving us your time too.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'd like to thank Robert Kiyosaki for joining me today on Wisdom Stripes. In today's episode, we explored his journey from author to investor, the lessons he shared that have reshaped global conversations around money, and how he's encouraging individuals everywhere to take control of their financial futures. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an update. You can follow Robert by searching at The Real Kiyosaki, and to stay connected with me, follow at Meg Tuohey Official on Instagram. Thank you for listening to another episode of Wisdom Stripes. I hope you gained a little wisdom today. My name is Meg Tuohey, and this is Wisdom Stripes. Thank you for listening to this episode of Wisdom Stripes. Follow me on at Meg Tuohey Official and leave a comment and review. I'm looking forward to meeting you here next time on Wisdom Stripes.